Voice a little bit if it gets all like crackly or whatever. Been battling a bit of a throat something. Don't you love going to the GP and they can't tell you what's wrong? Yeah, I love that. I'm very grateful for all the GPs if you're a GP here. And of course the nurses. Where would we be without the nurses? Yes? Yeah, okay. I've never heard so much out of Karen in one service. That's amazing. This morning I want to talk to you about protecting peace. I think when you turn on the news, I know some people just don't watch the news anymore. They're just like, I'm over that. It's not good for me. It's not healthy for me to watch the news. The fact of the matter is that we live in a broken world. I don't think I see any evidence that would prove to me otherwise. Every time you turn on the television, there's tragedy. There are wars that we don't even know anything about. We were on a Zoom call with our friends in Myanmar on Friday night, and just the constant fear that they live in. With militias and all that sort of stuff. I met with Belge 2 weeks ago, and the things that are going on in the Congo, these things that they don't get airtime. We don't hear about them. But people are afraid for their lives. People who have to leave their homes, leave the villages that they're in, the towns that they're in, because they're no longer safe. Obviously in America, pray for America. Who knows what's going to happen there? It's amazing because we watch all this in real time. As soon as it happens, everyone knows about it. The whole world knows about stuff. Things in Europe, things in Russia. The world has no peace. And there isn't going to be a leader that will come in that will deliver that for us. And if that's what you're hoping for and praying for, you look at the Middle East, Israel, the mess that's going on there. Peace is pretty hard to come by. And I think there's something inside of us that desperately wants peace. We want to kind of live in peace. How many of you would love to have a peaceful mind? Wouldn't that be great? Now, psychiatrists have medications for that. I'm not sure it really answers the question, but you can certainly be zoned out until it wears off. But peace is such a gift, and I think it's really important that Jesus refers to peace as a gift. And it's something that we can try really hard to have, but we cannot conjure up peace because it's just work for us. To try and be okay. No, I'm gonna be okay. No, I'm not gonna be afraid. No, I'm not gonna stress. No, I'm not gonna worry. And it's like this effort, and things keep coming. And then you turn the news on, and then the bills come, and it's just like. But Jesus comes as the Prince of Peace. And as he's foretelling of his own departure and death, in John chapter 14, verse 27, this is what he says to them. I'm leaving you with a gift. Peace of mind and heart. And the peace I give is a gift the world cannot give. So don't be troubled or afraid. So the part of Jesus will be played this morning by Tim, obviously. So what you need to hear here, bro, you need to go sit down. I'll call you up, bro. I'll call you up. It's too soon. So I need you to understand what Jesus is telling us here is you can't find peace, but I can give it to you. It's a gift. We don't have to work for this. This is not something that if you do the right amount of things, then you'll achieve the gift of peace. All he says to his disciples who are about to dive into chaos because he's going to get arrested, he's going to get killed, then he's going to leave. He's like, I'm giving you the gift of peace. Thank you. You're done. Thank you. So, do you see the exchange? I couldn't come up with this. I don't have peace except for Jesus. Here's the good news, yeah? The good news of the gospel. I can't find peace. I know people who have secure bank accounts and have no peace. I know people who have secure family dynamics, but they don't have peace. I know people who have secure jobs and they don't have peace. We can't find or manufacture this gift because it doesn't come from us and we cannot make it. We can only get it through Jesus. And I need you to hear that this morning. Because some of you are here and you are desperately trying to work towards peaceful. And I am telling you, it's the gift that only Jesus can give you. And so our choice then in this equation is to take it, receive it, be grateful. No. You're doing a great job, actually. I'm going to use all that. Yeah, he's excited. So we receive it, right? So I've received this gift. And the reason why I'm using a prop, you're like, what is that? It's a cross that some monk made. You might say, did your daughters make that when they were 3? No, it's a cross. But I'm using a prop because it's in my hand. I need you to understand that the peace of God will remain in your hand until you give it away. Because it's a lie to believe that anything or anyone can steal your peace. The only way to lose peace is to give it away in exchange for something else. But we're gonna talk through this story of Joseph, okay? It's a relatively well-known story, but Joseph was just one of the many characters in the Old Testament. He's a good guy. He's living a good life. He gets sold into slavery unfairly, and he finds himself as essentially the second in control of Potiphar's house. So he started just at the bottom rungs, but he's risen to the top. And in this particular passage of scripture in Genesis, it says, no one has more authority than I do. So he recognizes he's really ascended to a very high rank in this household. And he's saying about Potiphar, he has held nothing back from me except for you because you are his wife. How could I do such a wicked thing? It would be such a great sin against God. So Joseph finds himself in a scenario where Potiphar's wife wants him. And so I want to start the conversation off here because in this mental gymnastic of how do you hold on to peace, how do you protect it, where it begins, I believe, is understanding who's in control. All right? And Joseph says this brilliantly because he doesn't say that to be with her would be a sin against Potiphar. Does he? Now, he highly respects Potiphar, but he says to do that would be to sin against God. And so one thing that Joseph knows and has decided in his head is that God is ultimately in control of all things. Even though he finds himself in a place he would have never picked, in a place he did not deserve, he understands that God is still in control. And here's something that you need to somehow land on if you are going to maintain peace in your life, is that ultimately God is in control. I don't care what you're going through. Ultimately, God's in control. Yeah, but the doctors. No, the doctors are not in control. God is in control. No, your boss. No, my boss is in. No, the boss is not who's in control. God is in control. Yeah, but there's all these dynamics in my family and power plays. And no, they're not in control. God is ultimately in control. And if you can get there in your head, you will be able to maintain this. Because now it's not based on your circumstances. Excuse me, sorry. For most of us, our circumstances are the thing we give our peace away to. But if we understand that God is ultimately in control, then we will hold on tightly to this and say, no, even though I'm feeling unsettled, even though I don't know what's going on, even though something is happening in front of me that I can't believe, ultimately God is in control. And that's a choice that you have to make in your head. If you can do that, then you have to choose to stand on that every day and not just on your tough days. And here's what I mean. Once you decide this in your head, then you daily begin to build boundaries for your life that are built on the Word of God and the truth. And Joseph finds himself in this situation where Potiphar's wife is obviously making an advance on him. And what it says in verses 6-8, it says, so Potiphar gave Joseph complete administrative responsibility over everything he owned. With Joseph there, he didn't worry about a thing. So Joseph gave Potiphar, yeah? If you stand on peace, you will create peace around you. Anyway, except for the kind of food that he was going to eat. Joseph was a very handsome and well-built man. That's an interesting bit of information. And Potiphar's wife soon began to look at him lustfully. Come sleep with me, she demanded. But Joseph refused. Look, he told her, my master trusts me with everything in his entire household. So here's what I want to tell you. It starts off by understanding that God is in control, but then you can't just leave it there. You're going to have to start building some fences in your life that reflect this truth that God is in control. There have to be boundaries that you build in your life that you predetermine that you don't cross over. So that when the opportunity arises, you already have put that to bed. It's not like this, this is a surprise to me. What am I supposed to do here? This is not what Joseph is saying. Joseph, has already decided in his mind in the days and weeks leading up to this, how he will live, how he will do the things that he does, and what he will not do ever. Because here's what you need to know, and this is not a prophetic word for your life. If you're not in a storm, there's a storm coming. You might want to write that down. You might say, don't tell me that, don't say that. I have a conversation with God every day about that not happening. The fact of the matter is that things are going to come into your world that you did not intend. People are going to come into your world that you did not choose. And things are going to be put in front of you where you are going to have to predetermine where you stand, or else you are going to be in a very shaky, uncertain place. And as these things begin to happen, the thing that will always be at the forefront of your mind is whether or not you give your peace away. One great example of this in the Gospels is when they're in the boat in the storm. Do you remember the story? The disciples and Jesus are all in the boat. There's a storm. Jesus is asleep. Prince of Peace. That just means he could sleep anywhere. Right? Because he fully trusts in God. He knows, these things that are unfolding in his life. Sorry, excuse me. And if I put myself in the disciples, Jesus is not a fisherman, he's a carpenter. The carpenter's asleep, the fishermen are panicking. All right, so it's not some little thing, right? Like it had to be some kind of a storm to freak them out. But I imagine they're, for a while, they're strong. They're like looking at each other. Are you scared? No. Oh, we've been through this before. We're seasoned sailors, all that sort of. I'm sure that there was like this, encouragement, all that sort of stuff. But as the storm continues, they begin to falter. And then they begin to panic. And they exchange this. They give it away. And in full panic mode, they go wake up Jesus. And I'd be interested in how that conversation, someone should go wake him up. Maybe he doesn't know. Maybe, we're in trouble. All these things creep into your mind. And before you laugh, we all do this. We start stressing out about things that Jesus clearly is not worried about. And then we think, and how this looks like for us is we begin to pray. We haven't done a lot of praying, but I'm praying now. I know, God, we haven't talked for about a month or so, but maybe you don't know what's going on. So I'm here to tell you there's some real crisis going on right now. I don't know what you're doing, but you're not helping. That's essentially, so they exchange this. They give over to their worry because they hadn't decided and then built a framework around, I trust in God. I trust that he's in control. This storm is not going to kill me. The really spiritual people would have been sleeping with him. Yeah? Good news for us is none of them were sleeping. So just in case, not some of them, not even one of them, nobody was sleeping in that boat. So we got to build these boundaries or else we will give this away. And then the last thing I want to land on is just, we have to know what matters most to us. We have to know the things that we will never give this away for. And can I tell you something, everybody? If people could pay money for this, if people could buy this, the church would be rich. But you can't do that. You can fill your life with all kinds of distractions, but I can promise you, when you don't have peace, your brain is not off. You might be on a beach in the nicest place on the planet, and you have no peace. You might be enjoying the nicest food in all of Melbourne, and I promise you, you've got no peace. If you cannot shut your mind off, if you cannot land on what matters most to you, then it doesn't matter how much money you have. It doesn't matter. And so what does this woman do? Well, she keeps putting pressure on Joseph. It says in verse 10, day after day, but he refused to sleep with her. He kept on to his peace. He kept out of her way as much as possible. One day, however, no one else was around. When he went in to do his work, she came up and grabbed him by his cloak, demanding, come on, sleep with me. Joseph tore himself away, but he left his cloak in her hand and ran from the house. People will come to steal your peace. I cannot believe you just touched my hair. Dude, boundaries. So I love that actually, Matt. That was unscripted, him like coming up and down, all that sort of stuff. But situations and people will be like that. They will keep coming to try and steal this away from you. But remember what I said, situations and people cannot take this away from me. I can do this though. No. Ty, what is wrong with you, man?
It didn't move.
Whoa. Okay, you can go sit down, all right? Now I'm disturbed. people can't steal it away. Stop blaming people. Stop blaming your circumstances. Stop blaming your situation. Stop blaming everybody else. When Jesus said, I have this gift to give to you, and he's given it. The fact of the matter is that you gave it away to them. You gave it to that colleague at work that you can't stop thinking about, that they do your head in, all that sort of stuff. You gave them your peace. You exchanged it for something else. Stress, worry, fear, anxiety, whatever. Maybe it's your bills and your financial situation. And you can't stop thinking about it. You can't put it down. And you've given your peace over to it and replaced it with fear, anxiety, stress, worry. I know that we all have hard times to go through, but Jesus said, peace I give to you. And it's not like the peace that the world has, that trusts in financial systems and trusts in securities and trusts in all those sorts of things, because what we know is those things will come and go. Even in this country that we live in. Where we have enjoyed levels of peace, there will be times coming, and you see it in Melbourne with protests and all that sort of stuff. There is unrest in this country. And if you were banking everything on, well, at least we're in Australia. We're good, we're safe, I feel at peace. That's changing too. We need Jesus. We need to say that he is more important. We need to understand that what he's doing is more important than my circumstances being great all the time. We need to see a bigger picture. And I can tell you this, Potiphar's wife got Joseph's cloak that day, but she didn't get his peace. He held on. He held on. He did not allow his circumstances, and they got worse for him. But he just trusted. He had built a life with boundaries, and he knew what mattered most. And I can tell you this, the good news is that Joseph was shaped and formed and made and was ready to be the man that God had called him to be when he ascended to second in control of all of Egypt. Because he didn't let go of this. And here's my challenge, I guess, to all of us is, who have you given your peace to? What have you traded this in for? What joy and peace have you lost and been robbed of because you gave it away to a circumstance or a someone? Now here's the great news, everybody. If you've lost your peace, you can go find it again in Jesus. That's the good news. He doesn't say, I'll give it to you once, but if you lose it, sorry. It's a gift that he will continue to give. I love how Paul put it in 2 Thessalonians chapter 3. And when he prays this prayer, final greeting to the church. Now may the Lord of peace himself give you his peace at all times and in every situation. I need you to hear that. I don't care what the news says. The gift that you can receive from the Lord is peace at all times, in every situation. Doesn't that sound wonderful? Now some of you might be saying, that's a pipe dream, man. Well, I can't conjure this up myself. Believe me, I know that. But if I go back to who's in control, if I understand that if Jesus has delivered on all of his promises, I can trust him. And I can tell you that he walked out of the grave and not even death could hold him. You can trust him. You can trust him. Can we stand together? Just with every eye closed, I want to ask a question and this is very personal. And this, I just want you to be honest with me. This is between you and me and God. Just with every eye closed. I don't want you looking around because this is personal. If you're here this morning, maybe you're new here, you've never been here before, and you're like, man, this sounds good, I want that. But you do not know a quiet mind. You do not know peace. It's been stolen, like it's gone from you. You gave that away a long time ago. If that's you, I want you to put your hand up, please. Thank you. Put your hands up, come on. You know who you are. It's okay, you don't have to be ashamed. You don't have to, this is just a reality. God, I just want to pray right now for every raised hand. I thank you that we don't have to work for this. We don't have to strive for this. This is just a gift you offered us because you're the Prince of Peace. You are in control. Not even death could hold you. You are the promise fulfiller. You are the King of Kings and the Lord of Lords. And I pray right now, peace over every raised hand right now. I pray peace. I pray that you would know that God is bigger than what you're going through. It might be challenging. It might be rocking your world at this moment, but I need you to know that God is bigger. And he's got good things in store for you. God, I just pray peace. God, we live in a world that is in turmoil. We live in cities that are in turmoil, full of houses that so often are in turmoil. God, we need to be a people that can model peace, to model what it's like to live in peace and not take any credit for it and just say, I've only got peace because I know Jesus. And if you want peace too, you can know him as well. That we would be ones that would lead people to Jesus, the peace giver, the Prince of Peace. What a beautiful, wonderful gift your peace is. God, I just pray right now, even as we spend a little bit of time reflecting on our situations, circumstances, people, I pray that we will surrender all of these things that have taken up too much airtime in our heads and surrender it all to you, the Prince of Peace, this morning. In Jesus' mighty name. And so as we sing, I just want to encourage you this morning, just lay your stuff down, surrender it all down, put it at his feet. You can't change it anyway. You can't fix everything, but I need you to know that God is bigger, God is greater. So let's just sit in that before we close this morning.